Hey, Colin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, tell us who you are, what you do.
So, Collin Slattery, I run an agency called Tycoon Digital. We're primarily in the e-commerce space and do Facebook ads, Google ads, creative landing pages, things like that for predominantly e-commerce businesses. Yeah,
Accidental agency owner, or did you have plans to get into this business?
little of both. I just graduated high school and didn't go to college and knew how to make money on the internet. So I was like, let's keep making money on the internet, and it just kind of kept growing until it turned into an agency. I mean, I knew I wanted to ideally have an agency, but it just kind of happened pretty fluidly. Yeah.
So you just wanted to make money on the internet? Was that kind of the initial part?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty old at this point, I think, for the digital community. I graduated high school in '07, and it was the Wild West. You might remember those days. Not too many people do. And like had a bootleg like Canadian pharmacy, which you were allowed to advertise on Google back then. And was trying to make money on the internet. So
Yeah, so you
and
remember the Adobe Photoshop CDs that everyone would pass around as a student?
yep. And downloading like the Adobe cracker off of like LimeWire or something.
Yes. And then they finally got smart and went to their licenses. And I think all the agencies were like, no.
Yeah, you got that old like CS4 or something and like still rolling with it because it's free.
Yeah, exactly. What'd you charge your first client?
$300 a month, probably somewhere around there.
Do you remember who the client was? I actually remember the name of my first client.
So the first clients were kind of in a group, so I can't remember exactly which one was first, but one of the first three was a company called Spa Technologies. They made skincare products, and I managed their website. I did email marketing for them, did a little bit of advertising for them. It was kind of all the web stuff that you could do. SEO back when I was doing SEO, like meta tags on the pages in WordPress. That was a very early one. And then I actually worked for a local government in New York as
Oh
well.
wow! Oh my gosh, governments are the worst.
It was probably a little looser rules back then. And I did the email. Yeah.
I think government contract we ever did was like for Georgia audits and something. I can't remember. But my first client was Charlie Commander with Century 21 Real Estate. He was like, "Hey, I really like this website that you did," making fun of one of my friends, and was like, "Hey, do a website for me." I'm like, "Sure." I charged $500. So I can't believe I charged more than you did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, mine was a monthly retainer. So I got that
Okay,
300
then
bucks a
you
month.
win. You win. You win. Okay. How long did you keep that client? You remember?
A few years.
Wow. There you go. Awesome.
It was too cheap, right? I wasn't charging enough. And so they're like, well, we'll keep you on as long as you're willing to lose money.
That is a model with some people, to charge so low that it's not a question. We had a mastermind member, David, and I remember he did social media management for apartments. And I would always have him tell the mastermind group, like we'd have a guessing game. I'd be like, hey, tell the members what you do. And then everyone's going to go around the room and guess what you charge. So he would tell everybody what they do. And then everybody would guess like 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, right? All across the board. And then he'd be like 300, 400, $500 max. And I couldn't understand it at the time because I was like, look, man, if you could just double your prices, oh my gosh, like think about how big your agency could be. And he goes, Jason, what I'm creating is this factory, right? And I feel that when you create an agency, you're either creating this factory that wants to do thousands and thousands of clients, or you want to be more of a premium service where it's more selective. And you just have to figure out what works for you. And he goes, look, I just want to do a factory. Well, a year later, one of his biggest clients bought him for well over 8 figures. So the laugh is on him because he showed me, he was like, man, because that was always a model that was foreign to me. I never wanted to be the cheapest, right? I always want to be the most expensive.
Yeah. So I definitely more on the bespoke side of things and prefer it that way. I think I love the systems and like building systems, but I prefer the complexity, at least from my standpoint. Like I can really sink my teeth into, complex problems with complex clients. And, you have generally, or should anyway, better margins when you do it that way. And I think aligns with, how I like to operate and the people I like to hire and all of that.
So you've been doing it for a long time. You've probably made a lot of the mistakes, over the years that we've all made, and a lot of people listening, they haven't been able to have the fortunate opportunity to make all the mistakes we might have yet. I mean, that's why we kind of do the podcast. What's a mistake that really stands out in your head right now that you've made, that you've learned from and kind of turned things around?
Well, it's what I learn from and then have to occasionally relearn. And I imagine you might be the same way, or maybe you've gotten over it. It's ignoring red flags in the sales process with potential clients. It's always wrong.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, it's amazing how we stop trusting our gut when we need the money sometimes. But what are some of the red flags for you?
Unreasonable expectations and like actually unreasonable expectations, bad behavior, not showing up for calls late, blowing things off, just like kind of disrespecting you during the sales process.
What's the worst disrespect you've gotten on a sales process?
I mean, people have called me stupid before. So,
Really?
yeah. Like, oh, it sounds like you're pretty stupid and know what you're talking about. That was a
But
fun
they still
one.
hired you?
Oh, no, no, no. That one did not turn into a client. If we're talking like actual sales, I find like being very late to calls or blowing off calls probably the most disrespectful thing.
How long would you wait for someone to join a call?
Right now, it's 5 minutes.
Mine's 3, and then I'm gone.
Yeah. So 3 minutes, I ping them. And if it's 5 minutes, they're out. But I used to wait 10, 15 minutes. And like, if they don't respect your time, they're not going to respect anything that you do. Like, it's not going to be a good relationship.
Yeah. The one with unrealistic expectations, I did a video years ago. It was like Darth Vader calling me. Like I portrayed it as Darth Vader calling me. So they were the prospect calling me as an agency. And it was always like, we want the Death Star, but we have a budget for like the Earth Star, right? Like it was like big. And, he's like, and I want it yesterday versus, having those real expectations. And we had this one client, I was telling someone, I just got back from speaking at an event. Is this a red flag? Well, and you tell me if this is a red flag for you. If the prospect says, Collin, I'm going to be your best client you've ever had. Whenever you need anything, I'm going to get you everything you possibly need. Have you ever had a prospect tell you that?
Yeah. I don't know if I would consider that a red flag initially, but like something to dig further into. It's funny because that dovetails into kind of another red flag that we sometimes ignore, which is, clients not taking responsibility for successes or failures that they've had, right? And it's like, as an agency, we can't care more about your business. We can't be more invested than you are. And if you're just going to be like, here, you get nothing, do it all yourself, like, it's not going to work. On the flip side, right, if they're like a little too involved, it can be a problem too. But
Going back to that story I was kind of alluding to, this person was like, I'm going to be your best client you've ever had. I'll get you everything you need. Well, we always had a process in the agency because we've been burned in the past that we don't start any creative until we get everything from the prospect or the client. It just doesn't make any sense because like we'll do something, then they'll give us something new and then it changes everything. And it was just a waste of time. And we would always let them know. And we'd also let them know in the very beginning, before they were a client, we'd say, look, we're going to go off this schedule. Does this work for you? And then we would say, since you already told us that you're going to be our best prospect and best client, you're going to get us everything on time. This is how our payment terms go. We're going to do 50% up front. Halfway through the project or at a certain date, we're going to get paid whichever comes first. And same thing at the end. So most of the time we were getting paid on the date. So this particular client, they paid 100% of the project before we really even started. I sold the agency in the end of 2011. I signed this client in '08. They called me in 15 saying I finally got everything to do the website.
That's a timeline.
That's a huge timeline, right? I look back and I was like, I felt bad. I was like, look, dude, like we kept hitting you up to get you started. Like, let us write this for you. No, we're good. We're good. It was
For 7 years.
yes, yes. Isn't that nuts?
I mean, that's the craziest timeline I've ever heard of. It's like 7 years after inking a contract, they're like, "Hey, we got the stuff you need to get started."
And clients I've had in the past that have owned agencies, they haven't waited 7 years, but maybe they waited 5 years. But then their pricing structures changed. Inflation, all this different things. So a lot of times I always tell people is like, have a re-engagement fee. And then after a year, you have to redo the pricing that they agreed on if they haven't got you the information. Like, people listening right now, you laugh and we're kind of laughing between this, but it happens.
This is a scary thing around project-based payments and things like that.
Yeah. Retainers are, keep it going.
Ding you every month, like whether you're involved or not.
Yeah. Have you ever had any challenges with hiring or managing your team?
Lots.
For the people
Yeah.
that are not watching the video one, like your face was hilarious. You're like, yes, fuck yes.
Yeah. I don't think we have enough time to go through all of the hiring mistakes
What's
and
the
things.
funniest one or the biggest mess up that you've seen?
So I used to hire almost entirely on like technical skills because I was like, oh, if they can do the work, right? Like that's great. But then like terrible culture fit, like don't really fit into the team, don't work well with me. So I went the complete opposite direction. And it was like 15 minutes on a call, like you're hired, no skill assessment. You're like, I'll just teach them what they need to know. That did not work at all. So that was, I think, probably the craziest thing I've done. But
How long did it take you to figure out that they didn't have the skill set?
a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But and that's the other thing too. I've been stubborn about keeping people around where you're like, no, like we can make it work, we can figure it out. And now I'm like, I think pretty quickly if they're gonna be good or not. And it's best for all parties to just cut it short.
When's the soonest that you would know if you made the wrong hire?
Day one. I'm pretty confident. Like I say a couple of weeks because people can have a bad day one, but usually people set put their best foot forward right when you start with an engagement. It's very rare that people go from shaky to excellent. It's much more likely that they're on their best behavior like day one, week one, and then can like drift downward. So if they feel like they're shaky day one, it's usually a bad sign.
Hi there, agency owners. Let me ask you, are you ready to scale your agency without increasing your overhead costs? If yes, then you need to know about E2M Solutions. Now, E2M is the #1 most reliable white label partner for agencies. They specialize in web design, WordPress development, e-commerce, SEO, and content writing. They basically do all the heavy lifting, which frees you up to focus on growing your agency. Now, here's the best part. E2M is just not another vendor. With over 10 years of experience, their team of over 300 experts has a track record of delivering for more than 300 agencies. They're your strategic partner. They deliver on time every time, so you can focus on what you do best. Now, E2M's mission is simple: to help 500 agencies increase their revenue and profit margins with white label services that actually work. And to help you get started, they're offering a special deal, 10% off for the first 3 months, but act fast because it's only a limited time offer. So head over to e2msolutions.com/smartagency to check out their transparent and their flexible pricing. Trust me, if you're ready to grow without burning out, E2M is the partner you've been looking for. That's e2msolutions.com/smart agency. Go check them out and tell them Jason Swank sent you. I always tell everybody, looking back at any of the bad hires, usually your gut told you within the first week. But I never even thought about it. Yeah, day one, they should be showing up like, it's the first date, wanting to impress. And if they, show up late, stinky, whatever,
So like they're putting in their maximum effort on day one. Like if it feels like they're kind of just coasting and phoning it in, it's not going to get better. Or if it does, like I've never seen it happen personally.
Yeah, no. I mean, thinking back too. Yeah, I've never seen someone that started off bad get better. I've seen people that start off good, go bad, and then good, back again just because of some life thing that happens.
Yeah. Sometimes people have down quarters, right? Or, a down month. Shit happens in real life and it happens, right? But the first day, the first week, the first couple of weeks, usually that, sets the tone.
Have you ever hired friends or family?
Yeah. First time I did it, hired a friend. It was terrible. No longer a friend. And then I did it again last year or a year and a half ago, and it was excellent.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the difference was, I mean, I think it's a character thing. I also think maybe where the business is and, the personalities. Like one, it was like my best friend. And this time, it was kind of like a mentee who turned into a friend and like had sold his own agency and was looking for, was a great culture fit and had all of the skills already. And it was just kind of like, how can we make this work? And it was like, yeah, let's figure it out.
I think if you set expectations, up front, and then you give kind of the ripcord to both parties, in order if it doesn't work, like, because I always felt like the friendship was more important. I've always had a rule, we designed lots of websites back in the day. So I was like, friends will let friends design websites. That was like my motto, but they could become friends after, right? Like my team now, we're all amazing friends and love to hang out and all that kind of stuff. And that can happen after, but it's hard to go the other way, I think.
Yeah. I don't recommend it. I think you need very specific personalities. Like we're both incredibly open to direct and blunt criticism and don't really take things personally. And so, I think that it's like very easy to make that work. But I was very nervous before doing it.
Well, you've had great growth over the years. What have you contributed to that growth?
A lot. I mean, it's obviously me to start with. And then, you just try to add ideally pieces where like you're weak or I mean, that's the ideal, right? Where you can like slice off the part where you're like, this is the part I'm worst at. You are excellent. Great, slot in. That can be hard, especially at the small scale. But as you get bigger, it gets easier. And just getting me kind of into my core competency and out of the stuff that you hate. Because I think there's always stuff that people hate doing. And when you start a business, you do everything. And yeah, get rid of the stuff that you're bad at. Get rid of the stuff you hate, even if you're good at it. And get to the stuff where, you wake up and you don't dread getting up because you have to do something, right? Because the stuff that you dread doing, someone else fucking loves. And so find that person and be like, here you go.
That took me a long time because I thought everybody in the world was like me. So I remember when the project manager, I'd be like, look, just do this job for 2 years. It sucks. You're going to have to talk to clients. You're going to have to manage them, but just do it for 2 years and then I'll promote you. And I didn't realize some people love that stuff. I hated it. And it just took someone mentioning that to me. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So like, what's your sweet spot what's your core competency right now for the agency?
So I'm generally very good at sales and marketing. I'm also good at the nerdy math problems that crop up with the complex clients, and I love kind of like being given, a fistful of spreadsheets and like, I've go figure this problem out. So yeah, sales marketing and the complex math stuff that other people don't want to deal with. And I mean, I think I'm a pretty good leader and teacher too, of the team.
How do there's some people right now that, they lost a good client of theirs or they're about to lose a client. How do you approach that?
Well, we just lost our biggest client yesterday. Well, temporarily because of tariffs, right? We're in ecom, and it's going to happen, right? I mean, I think you need to build your business in a way that you can survive losses without cutting down. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you have to charge enough, right? Like you need profit margin so that you lose a client, you're not burning money. And this is a lesson that took a long time for me and also like scaling up too, but like always be selling. Like the pipeline always needs to be full. Do not take your foot off the gas because you have too many projects in the pipeline. You can just raise your price, just double your price and see if they say yes, right? Like if you've got prospects in the pipeline and don't have the availability to deliver, just be like, if it's normally 5,000 a month, just like, it's 10. And the worst case they say is no, or maybe they just say yes. And you're like, all right, well, we got a new price point now. And we got the margin to hire more people. So yeah, it's always when you're like, oh, things are good, like the pipeline's full, we have tons of clients, take your foot off the gas on sales. And then, you hit a dry spell. And once you're there, like it's months to rebuild the pipeline activity. And then you're in a tough place. So
Yeah, I always look at what we're doing today is going to affect us 3 to 6 months down the road. And I remember getting to that point where I would literally sabotage sales because I knew, like my name's on I'm responsible for the results I felt. And I was like, I don't want to sell something I know the team's going to botch because they're already at their max. And, what I found is, yeah, doubling, like you have a sliding scale for your pricing. So I'd always say the next 3 clients are going to be at this. And then after that, we're going to raise it to this and this. And we were constantly, raising. And then what we found was we'd have all these clients paying us like more than double than these other ones. And then I'd be like, oh, we need to go back to those guys and double those rates. And then what we found is like half of them would say yes, half of them would leave. We'd make the same amount, but we'd have half the work to do. That was the worst case scenario.
yeah, go back to the legacy retainers and be like, look, it's appreciate the business we've had for years, and you've been below our minimums or whatever, below our target for years. We gotta bring you up to where it is. And yeah, I mean, we raise our retainers every year, and what a surprise, our average retainer goes up every year.
How do you decide what you should have the retainer at? Is there a certain percentage that you always want to increase it? Or is it kind of like my method, kind of just pulling it out of your ass and going, I want to charge this, or what?
It's usually vibes. It's usually just like around $1,000 number. So usually we'll increase it by $1,000 or $2,000 a year.
Okay. Cool. That's awesome. Great. Well, Collin, this has been a lot of fun. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
My strategy for growing rapidly. I don't know.
What is it?
So, and this is something where so you were talking just now about sabotaging deals where you knew you couldn't deliver. Last year, we were growing rapidly. I did that, right? I brought on deals that we couldn't service, and it was bad, right? We churned clients that we probably should have churned because we didn't do the quality work that we needed to do. And this year, like in the last 6 months, right, I've tried a different strategy, which is hire ahead of the demand and then hire more senior people. And it's a luxury to be like in that position and be able to hire senior talent. But at least for me, right, like you can't hire, people who don't have autonomy early on. Like it can be tempting, right? Where you're like, oh, I'm going to hire this junior person and we'll train them up and we're going to get this value savings and all of that. And, we can hire in and backfill once we close the deals. the people are the hardest part. Get the senior people, right? You can take a hit to margin. It's why you charge enough money, and then the deals will come after. It's a much less stressful way to do it. And, I definitely learned that the hard way, again, by bringing on the clients before you had the team, or trying to hire super junior people and then like get this value arbitrage that you think you're going to get. Two massive mistakes I've made in the last few years that have rectified in the last 6-8 months, and can confirm as we're going through it, much better way to do it. So
Yeah, I always looked at it as an A player, you're going to pay 10%, maybe to 20% more than a B player, but they're going to deliver 10x the result and require less than so much less of your time. And I think that's what people don't realize when they hire a junior team or a junior person. Yes, you got a deal on the salary or what you pay them, but you're going to require so much more time. And the reason why I always hired people was to give me my time back.
yeah, focus on the higher impact stuff that only you can do.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, awesome. Well, Collin, this has been a lot of fun, and going back and forth and sharing the stories. And I'm so glad that you've had success over the years. And for everyone listening, if you guys don't want to do it all by yourself and make a lot of the mistakes that you're destined to, right? Like, you're always going to make mistakes, but if you can make the mistakes and get through them a little bit quicker, or hear other people's fuck ups and then avoid those altogether, you can only get that, by doing it or being in a community that understands what you do. And if you guys want to join a really amazing community that we're really selective, we'd love to have you. Go to agencymastery.io. And until next time, have a swank day.